A Rose Among Thorns by Miles Calder. The year was 1861, and the bustling port town of Portsmouth, New Hampshire, brimmed with industry. Tall masts from docked ships swayed in the harbor, silhouetted against the golden light of the setting sun. Evelyn Carlisle stood outside the gates of Hargrave Manor, clutching the handles of her small travel case. Her heart fluttered with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The sprawling estate loomed before her, its ivy-covered brick siding both inviting and imposing. This was to be her new home, her chance to carve out a life of her own. She had heard whispers about Benjamin Hargrave, the owner of the grand estate. A wealthy shipbuilder and widower, he was known to be both stoic and enigmatic. Evelyn hoped she could keep her own resolve strong, as she had no choice but to succeed. Her younger brother depended on her wages to survive back in Boston. Her journey had not been an easy one. After her parents' death 2 years prior, Evelyn had been forced to seek employment to support herself and her brother Thomas. The position as governess at Hargrave Manor represented more than just a job. It was a lifeline, an opportunity to provide stability for the only family she had left. Inside the manor, Evelyn's initial meeting with Mr. Hargrave was professional but tense. Benjamin Hargrave sat behind a heavy desk in his study, his broad shoulders hunched slightly, as if under an invisible weight. When he rose to greet her, she was struck by his presence. Though grief had etched itself into his features, his deep-set blue eyes held a quiet intensity. "You must be Miss Carlisle," he said, his voice steady but lacking warmth. "I am," Evelyn replied, willing herself to meet his gaze. "You'll find the children upstairs in the nursery. Henry and Clara are spirited, but I trust you'll manage." He offered no further pleasantries, gesturing curtly to the door. As Evelyn excused herself, she couldn't shake the impression of his eyes. They were not cold, as she had feared, but guarded like a man who had forgotten how to trust. The first weeks at Hargrave Manor were a whirlwind. 10-year-old Henry and 8-year-old Clara tested Evelyn's patience at every turn. Clara's precocious questions and Henry's aloof demeanor were challenging, but Evelyn approached them with kindness. She noticed how often their games included an imaginary mother who was always just over there, never truly absent but never truly present either. Slowly, Evelyn became a calming presence in their lives. She found herself lingering over bedtime stories, watching Clara's eyes light up and Henry's guarded demeanor soften ever so slightly. Her patience was not merely professional. She saw in these children a reflection of her own childhood loss, a pain she understood intimately. It was during these moments that Benjamin began to notice her. He would linger in the doorway of the nursery, watching as Evelyn guided Clara through her reading lessons or engaged Henry in chess. At first he said little, offering only the occasional nod of approval. But his presence became a quiet comfort, one Evelyn grew to anticipate. Her interactions with the children were deliberate and thoughtful. She understood that healing from loss was not about replacement, but about creating new memories, new connections. When Henry would become withdrawn, she would introduce a chess problem that would gradually draw him out. With Clara, she used storytelling as a means of emotional exploration, helping the child process her own grief through imaginative narratives. By spring, the subtle changes in Benjamin and Evelyn's relationship became increasingly apparent. Their conversations lingered longer, punctuated by moments of shared understanding that transcended mere professional courtesy. Benjamin began to seek her out not just regarding the children, but for her companionship. One particularly mild afternoon, Benjamin invited Evelyn to walk with him through the estate's gardens. The air was thick with the fragrance of blooming roses, their delicate petals unfurling in the warm sunlight. He walked beside her, his hands clasped behind his back, a gesture that seemed to betray his internal struggle. "Miss Carlisle," he began, then paused. "Evelyn." The use of her Christian name sent a subtle flutter through her heart. She looked up, meeting his gaze. "I've been meaning to discuss something with you," he continued, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. "Your impact on this family, on my children, has been profound." Evelyn understood the weight behind his words. It was more than a compliment, it was an acknowledgement of her deep connection to his family. One crisp afternoon, Evelyn took the children to the woods bordering the estate. Clara skipped ahead, her golden curls bouncing as she collected leaves, while Henry walked beside her, uncharacteristically chatty. They laughed as Clara attempted to carry an oversized branch, only to fall in a heap of giggles. When they returned to the manor, Benjamin was waiting on the porch. His stern expression gave Evelyn pause. "You took them to the woods?" he asked, his tone sharp. "I thought the fresh air would do them good," Evelyn replied evenly. Benjamin's jaw tightened. "The woods can be treacherous. Next time, inform me before you go." Evelyn bristled at his tone, but held her tongue. Later that evening, as she sat in the parlor embroidering, Benjamin entered, his usual guardedness replaced by something gentler. "I owe you an apology," he said, his voice low. "I overreacted. It's just the children mean everything to me." Evelyn looked up, surprised by his candor. "I understand, Mr. Hargrave. They are remarkable children." As summer approached, the tension between them grew. Benjamin's attentions became more deliberate. Small gestures revealed his growing affection, a book he thought she might enjoy, a sketch of the children left on her desk, fresh flowers from the garden placed in her room. One evening, as moonlight spilled through the library windows, Benjamin found Evelyn reading. He entered with a purposeful stride, something different in his demeanor. "May I join you?" he asked, though it was clear this was no casual invitation. Evelyn's heart raced as he sat beside her, closer than propriety typically allowed. "Of course, Mr. Hargrave." "Benjamin," he corrected softly. "I believe we are beyond formalities." His hand found hers, a gentle but deliberate touch that spoke of intention and deep emotion. "I have watched you transform this family," he said. "You've brought light back to a home I thought would forever remain in shadow." Tears gathered in Evelyn's eyes. She understood the profound nature of his words. This was more than a declaration of affection. It was an acknowledgement of healing, of hope reborn. When he proposed, it was not with grand theatrics but with a quiet, heartfelt sincerity that captured the essence of their connection. He presented a delicate ring, Margaret's ring, he explained, which he wanted to honor by passing it to the woman who had restored joy to his family. "Stay," he said, "not as a governess but as my wife, as the mother of Henry and Clara, as my partner in every sense." Evelyn's response was a whispered yes, that seemed to fill the entire room with possibility. Their wedding was a quiet affair, held in the garden surrounded by blooming roses. Clara and Henry were overjoyed, their laughter echoing through the estate. As Benjamin and Evelyn exchanged vows, the sunlight bathed them in a golden glow, a testament to the love that had grown between them. In the years that followed, the Hargrave estate became a place of joy and laughter once more. Evelyn and Benjamin's love deepened with time, rooted in trust and shared dreams. Each spring, Benjamin would present her with a single rose from the garden, a reminder of the day their lives began anew. And Evelyn, who had come to Hargrave Manor seeking only employment, found a love greater than she had ever imagined.